Hey guys, happy Tuesday. I hope everybody had an awesome Memorial Day break yesterday and that you got to have some fun, maybe get some fresh air. Welcome to Close Reading Day 1, where we will be looking for the main idea of the text, The Red Pony, which is a great story by John Steinbeck. As we know, we'll need three things for close reading. The first is this video. Nice job, you already have it. The second is the text itself, The Red Pony. You'll find that in the assignment. And the third thing you need today is new. So instead of a Google form, you're going to be answering your close reading questions with Google Docs. So instead of it being that page where you answer your questions, you'll notice that in the assignment, you click on a Google Doc and it opens up more like a Word document where you can type your answers in. And when you go to answer the main idea or the short response, you can write a full paragraph and see what you have written as you go, making it a lot easier for us to write full, nice, awesome, paragraph-long responses. Shout out to Google Docs. So we know it's day 1 and we're looking for a main idea, but how are we going to grow from last week? So a glow from last week is that we did a nice job including the big topic in our main idea. So a lot of people were able to talk about those 2 informational texts about recess and school starting later by putting the big topic in your own words, which is great. But a grow for us is including the deeper meaning in our main ideas. So last week when we were reading informational text, the deeper meaning was the author's point of view. But this week we'll be reading narrative texts, so you're going to be looking for the lesson learned or what you can take away as a reader. And make sure to put that in your main idea. So let's get started. Following our strategic reading plan, we are now at step 2. We're going to preview the text by looking for the genre frames, and noticing something important about the title. So go ahead and pause this video as you preview the text, looking for what genre it might be, and therefore those thinking jobs that are going to help you understand it. Alright, so you probably figured out that this is not an informational and not a poem, but a narrative text. So as we read today, we're going to be paying attention to who the characters are, what the problem and the solution is if there is one, and what the lesson could be learned from this character. And remember we said we're going to notice the title too, so The Red Pony. What might that tell you about the importance of this story? What could the Red Pony be giving us a clue about? Let's find out. As we read today, and really every day, this transferable takeaway is going to help us best understand this text. Transferable takeaway. Whenever you read fiction texts, think about how the character changes from the beginning of the story to the end of the story, and why. This will help unlock the big lesson that the character learns throughout the text, and the lesson that you as a reader can learn as well. Let's begin reading. This excerpt takes place on a ranch during the 1930s. 10-year-old Jody lives with his parents and Billy Buck, a hired hand, or somebody to help. Excerpt from The Red Pony by John Steinbeck. When the triangle sounded in the morning, Jody dressed more quickly even than usual. In the kitchen, while he washed his face and combed back his hair, his mother addressed him irritably. "Don't you go out until you get a good breakfast in you." He went into the dining room and sat at the long white table. He took a steaming hot cake from the platter, arranged 2 fried eggs on it, covered them with another hot cake, and squashed the whole thing with his fork. His father and Billy Buck came in. Jody knew from the sound on the floor that both of them were wearing flat-heeled shoes, but he peered under the table to make sure. His father turned off the oil lamp, for the day had arrived, and he looked stern and disciplinary, but Billy Buck didn't look at Jody at all. He avoided the shy, questioning eyes of the boy and soaked a whole piece of toast in his coffee. Carl Tiffin said crossly, "You come with us after breakfast." Jody had trouble with his food then, for he felt a kind of doom in the air. The 2 men stood up from the table and went out into the morning light together, and Jody respectfully followed a little behind them. He tried to keep his mind from running ahead, tried to keep it absolutely motionless. His mother called, "Carl, don't you let it keep him from school." They marched past the cypress, where a single tree hung from a limb to butcher the pigs on, and past the black iron kettle, so it was not a pig killing. The sun shone over the hill and through long, dark shadows of the tree and buildings. They crossed a stubble field to shortcut to the barn. Jody's father unhooked the door and they went in. They had been walking toward the sun on the way down. The barn was black as night, in contrast, and warm from the hay and from the beasts. Jody's father moved over toward the one box stall. "Come here," he ordered. Jody could begin to see things now. He looked into the box stall and then stepped back quickly. This is where we're going to stop to answer our first guiding question. But taking a look at the Google Doc overall, since this is our first time completing close reading on Google Docs, we're just going to go over what each part entails. So here's our title, here are the directions, and the transferable takeaway, which we talked about in the beginning of this video. So that brings us to part 1, the read aloud questions. Right now we're answering question number 1, based on what we've read so far. Who are the characters and what have we learned about them? Pause the video, reread that part of the text if you need, and press play when you've answered the question. And just a quick tip, right after where it says your answer, that's where you type your answer. So you have Billy, and you continue there. Alright, nice job. And remember, you can always call your teachers if you ever have a question. Let's get back to the reading. A red pony colt was looking at him out of the stall. Its tense ears were forward and a light of disobedience was in its eyes. Its coat was rough and thick as an Airedale's fur, and its mane was long and tangled. Jody's throat collapsed in on itself and cut his breath short. And this little 1 here tells us that at the bottom, definition number 1, Airedales, is a breed of terriers, so a type of dog. So its coat was thick like a type of dog. He needs a good currying, his father said, and if I ever hear of you not feeding him or leaving his stall dirty, I'll send him off in a minute. Currying is cleaning. Jody couldn't bear to look at the pony's eyes anymore. He gazed down at his hands for a moment, and he asked very shyly, "Mine?" No one answered him. He put his hands out toward the pony. Its gray nose came close, sniffing loudly, and then the lips drew back and the strong teeth closed on Jody's fingers. The pony shook its head up and down and seemed to laugh with amusement. Jody regarded his bruised fingers. "Well," he said with pride. "Well, I guess he can bite all right." The two men laughed, somewhat in relief. Carl Tiflin went out of the barn and walked up a side hill to be by himself, for he was embarrassed. But Billy Buck stayed. It was easier to talk to Billy Buck. Jody asked again, "Mine?" So let's take a second to now answer guiding question number 2. What are you noticing about the relationship between these characters so far? Once you've answered, head back to the text. Jody asked again, "Mine?" Billy became professional in tone. "Sure, that is, if you look out for him and train him right. I'll show you how. He's just a colt. You can't ride him for some time." Jody put out his bruised hand again, and this time the red pony let his nose be rubbed. "I ought to have a carrot," Jody said. "Where'd we get him, Billy?" "Bought him at a sheriff's auction," Billy explained. "The show went broke in Salinas and had debts. The sheriff was selling off their stuff." The pony stretched out his nose and shook the forelock from his wild eyes. Jody stroked the nose a little. He said softly, "There isn't a saddle?" Billy Buck laughed. "I'd forgot. Come along." In the harness room, he lifted down a little saddle of red Morocco leather. "It's just a show saddle," Billy Buck said despairingly. "It isn't practical for the brush, but it was cheap at the sale." Jody couldn't trust himself to look at the saddle either, and he couldn't speak at all. He brushed the shining red leather with his fingertips, and after a long time, he said, "It'll look pretty on him, though." He thought of the grandest and prettiest things he knew. "If he hasn't a name already, I think I'll call him Gabalin Mountains," he said. Billy Buck knew how he felt. "It's a pretty long name. Why don't you just call him Gabalin?" "That means hawk. That would be a fine name for him." Billy felt glad. "If you will collect tail hair, I might be able to make a hair rope for you sometime. You could use it for a hackamore." And a hackamore is a simple looped bridle used chiefly in breaking colts. So it's a rope used for these types of ponies called colts. Jody wanted to go back to the box stall. "Could I lead him to school, do you think, to show the kids?" But Billy shook his head. "He's not even halter broke yet." We had a time getting him here. Had to almost drag him. You better be starting for school, though. I'll bring the kids to see him here this afternoon, Jody said. So now that Jody has his pony, how is our understanding of the main character evolving? Pause the video here, answer the question, and then head back to the text. 6 boys came over the hill half an hour early that afternoon, running hard, their heads down, their forearms working, their breath whistling. They swept by the house and cut across the stubble field to the barn. And then they stood self-consciously before the pony. And then they looked at Jody with eyes in which there was a new admiration and a new respect. Before today, Jody had been a boy, dressed in overalls and a blue shirt, quieter than most, even suspected of being a little cowardly. And now he was different. Out of 1,000 centuries, they drew the ancient admiration of the footman for the horseman. They knew instinctively that a man on a horse is spiritually as well as physically bigger than a man on foot. They knew that Jody had been miraculously lifted out of equality with them and been placed over them. Gabalin put his head out of the stall and sniffed them. So that paragraph was pretty important to what we know about Jody. How does the final paragraph contribute to our understanding of Jody? Go ahead and answer that question right here, then come back to the video. Alright, so you have made it through our guiding questions, and you have made it to the secret question. Nice job. Our secret question today is, what is the first thing you would say to your parents if they bought you a pony? So let's say you come home from school one day and you see a pony in your house and your parents say, woohoo, congrats, we got you this. What's the first thing that you would say to them? Answer the secret question on the Google Doc. Okay guys, nice job. So we've read the text and we've answered the guiding questions that help us understand how this character changed throughout the whole story. Now it's time for you to write your main idea. So down at the bottom of the Google Doc, Part 2, Main Idea, in this box is where you're going to write your main idea. When you click in here, you can delete the type your main idea here directions and start typing. So Jody and answer the main idea right there. Remember the CFS for a main idea. It is contextualized, accurate, and has the deepest meaning, which is the lesson learned. Your main idea should be a full paragraph, or you can use bullet points like this. So maybe you have one there, one there, and one there. Up to you how you want to organize it, as long as you have a full paragraph or at least 3 sentences that meet all the parts of the CFS. All right, nice job. Looking forward to reading some great main ideas for this narrative text, The Red Pony.